Hello, my name is Jared Kersey, and today I'm going to be talking about biofeedback, a few anecdotal evidences, a history of it, and a brief overview. And this is for perspectives on wellness. WebMD says that biofeedback is the use of the mind to control body function that is normally regulated automatically. These are things like skin temperature, muscle tension, heart rate, blood pressure. When I was a child, my dad would always use the phrase "will it," in which he meant that he could will or think away any physical ailments, the flu, a cold, sniffles, headache, whatever. I've always thought this was interesting, and when I would get a headache, I actually tried it once. And the method that I found that worked for me is I would imagine a ball in my head, and this ball would have a certain color, and this color I would associate with my pain. So for instance, I would see a blue ball in my brain, in my mind. And this blue ball I would take and I would peel off layer by layer until all the color was gone. It was white or clear. And by the time I had finished peeling this ball mentally, my headache was gone. It was years later when I found out through research and talking with individuals that this is an actual technique used in meditation to help control body functions, a form of biofeedback. Another personal experience is I often have tinnitus. It's a ringing in the ears. Don't really know what causes it, but I just hear this ringing in the back of my head and it gets louder. I've had to learn to sit down, close my eyes, and think about this ringing. I think about it and think about it and tell it to go away. Usually in about 10 to 20 seconds, it's gone. It's another evidence of how I use biofeedback in my life. There's a famous magician or illusionist, David Blaine. He's known for these spectacular physical feats in which he has to use biofeedback. And a web series of talks called the TED Talks, which stands for Technology, Entertainment, and Design, he talks about how he had to hold his breath for 17 minutes. Now he's done a few very spectacular feats in which in London he put himself in a glass box for around 40 days or so and only drank water. No food, no anything. He said it got to the point there were people flying around offering him cheeseburgers if he would just take it. And but he wanted to prove that it was possible to train the body to go without food for that long. You might remember in Madison Square Garden, he froze himself in a block of ice for almost 64 hours. No food, no drink, no blankets. He was just with the clothes he had on, frozen. But anyway, he talks about this challenge. He wanted to hold his breath for 17 minutes underwater. First thing he had to do, he had to learn how to slow his heart rate down, because with the heart beating and pumping, it's using a precious oxygen. Through training, diet, and exercise, and meditation, he was able to keep his heart rate, a resting heart rate, below 38 beats per minute. And this is a lot low. This is even lower than most Olympic athletes. He also learned to stay still. Because if you're staying still, you're not moving your body, you're not using energy, you're not using oxygen. So that's more oxygen he can keep in his body and not expel it or use it up. These are excellent examples of biofeedback. Now let's go on to medical practice. The first person to develop this method of biofeedback was Edmund Jacobson. He did it around the turn of the 20th century, 1908. He was a researcher at Harvard, and he developed this method called progressive muscle relaxation. He used this to help individuals monitor and control muscle tension. So what he would do, he'd have an individual, a subject or a student, be in a room, and the instructor would help these people isolate only the muscles that they're using for a particular task, and the other muscles to completely relax them, or to go from head to toe, and in a progressive series, contract and relax these muscles. This is shown to help alleviate people suffering from ulcers, insomnia, and hypertension. That was a long time ago. These methods are still being shown today. Several weeks ago I was watching an episode of Dr. Oz, in which a sleep specialist came in, and they were talking about different ways to relax and help go to sleep for people who had trouble. And they did this very thing. The sleep specialist, instructed the entire the entire audience from the head to the toe to isolate each individual muscle group, contract it, release it in a progressive order, and was proven to help those who are suffering from insomnia. Today there are 3 different types of biofeedback therapy that are mainly used. The first one is electromyography, or EMG. This measures muscle tension through electrodes that are placed in certain parts of the body that you want to measure, and you have computer software that monitors that for you. Dr. Adam Kirkpatrick is a assistant professor of voice at Kennesaw State University, and he does this with his voice students. He puts electrodes on the throat area right around the larynx to measure movement of the larynx for his students. It helps them figure out how to keep their larynx in a low position to get the tone that they want. Through the computer software, they're actually able to visualize an otherwise invisible process. The second type of biofeedback therapy we use today is thermal biofeedback. This thermal biofeedback is proven to help with Raynaud's phenomenon. This happens when, through temperature or stress, causes a person's arteries that leads to their extremities to constrict and restrict the blood flow to their fingers, to their toes, to their ears, and to their nose, the extremities of the body, to the point that they'll turn cold, change colors. Through a series of therapy sessions, individuals are taught to control their blood flow, open up these arteries, and release blood to those areas. The last biofeedback therapy I want to talk about today is neurobiofeedback, or it's used by electroencephalography, or EEG. This measures brain activity by the same way by using these electrodes. It's proven to help people with migraines, among other ailments. Through an analytical study, Stokes and Lapin went through a bunch of different studies and found these few where they had a test subject for people who were using medicine to help with their migraines and people who were using medicine and other forms of biofeedback, thermal biofeedback, EMG, or even the EEG. And those who were not using biofeedback along with the medicine, 50% of them had a 50% reduction in frequency, whereas those who were with the medicine, they were using the biofeedback, had a 70% showing 50% reduction or more in frequency. Neurobiofeedback is also used in people suffering with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. These electrodes are placed on the brain, hooked up to computer games, video games, or movies, and used as sort of a mind control. For example, you'll have a computer-generated plane flying in the air. The subject will have to use his brain to think about the plane flying, and those brain electrical impulses are transferred and used to keep the plane flying. When the person deviates his thought to something else, then the plane doesn't work or the movie stops playing. There has been research showing that neurobiofeedback helps retrains the brain to produce electrical patterns associated with calm and focus. Benefits for this are there are no side effects from neurobiofeedback, or any biofeedback for that matter. So it's a big bonus. You don't have to worry about drugs. It's a natural way of curing or helping an ailment. Cons for this particular study for ADHD, it's very expensive and very time consuming. And in closing, biofeedback holds promise for us today. We're still a long way from having it being a proven science, but it's showing progress, and it's something that's been proven over time. Thank you.